the midnight launch is dying. Like, it's a great place. Like, you go out to these places, you talk to gamers, you meet some cool people. It's a fun vibe. Okay, the last time.
You know, it's a place you don't want to be when Mutahar is saying the people there are cool. No, thank you. I don't want to go anywhere where Mutahar thinks the people there are cool.
And to be fair, the biggest sigh of relief for me is to sit over here and apologize for purchasing a video game system, right? There's a lot of things that a YouTuber can do that would be very illegal, very wrong, ethically, not even just legally, that I could.
That is right, Mutahar. You could have broken the law. You could have hit somebody with your car. You could have shot them with the gun that was in the other video. There are worse things that you could have done. So I guess really we shouldn't care. Good point.
I did want to cover it from a review perspective. I did want to cover it just from the preservation.
No, Mutahar, you didn't. You wanted the Switch 2 the whole time. But you thought, hey, I can probably get 250,000 views on a handful of videos talking about Nintendo bad, raising prices bad, whatever other criticisms of Nintendo bad. But you wanted the console the whole time. And so then as soon as you knew you could get it, you got it. Stop trying to justify it. I just wanted to protect and inform people. No. You wanted to make videos that you thought would do well, that you thought people would agree with, because there's a lot of people criticizing Nintendo and upset with Nintendo. So you thought, oh, I'll do these videos. Lots of people will agree with me and say, good job, Mutahar. So smart, Mutahar. We love you, Mutahar, which are the magic words to him. There's nothing he loves to hear more than people agreeing with him in his comments. But then he also wanted a Nintendo Switch 2, so as soon as he could get one, he got one. At this point in time, I truly question whether or not Mutahar is a real human. Because it seems he's some AI robot attempting to pass as a human made by the corporate overlords that is supposed to appease humans and say things that they like to hear. It really seems there is no opinion that this man is not willing to back down for and very likely apologize for. It seems that he could upload a video saying, hey guys, I love my mom. I think she's a good person. And a few people push back against that. What do you know? The next day, the video's deleted. And very good chance that he even apologizes for that video. Hey guys, I never should have said that my mom was a good person, that I loved her. Obviously, you guys don't know that. I can't prove that to you. So I shouldn't go saying these sorts of things when who even knows if it's true? It's unverifiable information. So that was my bad. And I hope to do better going forward. That's what I would expect from him if he got the slightest bit of pushback on the I think my mom's a good person and I love her video. And I say that because this most recent apology tour that he's going on for is one of the stupidest, most trivial things in the world. It would be completely not worth talking about if he hadn't apologized for it. If he just said this one thing, completely went against it, and people called him out for it, but he didn't address it, would not be at all worth talking about, in my opinion. But because, like the coward he is, he backs down and apologizes for it, well, now I have to talk about it because it enrages me. I don't understand how people can continue to watch this guy when he clearly has zero convictions. I will say, at the very least, this time around, some people in the comments, a decent amount of people in the comments, in fact, are pushing back against him and seem to be upset with him for doing this for the 47th time.
Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar. There's a guy in the YouTube comments that does like blue shirt polo analysis. And I'm wearing the Best Buy blue today because honestly, ladies and gentlemen, times be tough. I did go to the Best Buy. I wasn't working there, but I did see the amount of metric nonsense that some Best Buy employees got to deal.
The amount of metric stuff, metric nonsense. So I'm assuming he's talking about conversions. They have to do meters to feet, grams to pounds, something like that. Otherwise, maybe he meant a metric ton of stuff they have to deal with. I don't know. We're 20 seconds into a video. He could have just stopped and restarted it. I don't know if he does cuts, if this is an edited video or he did this all in one shot. But if you're only 20 seconds in, stumbling over your words like that, and you say something that actually doesn't make sense, you could just restart. But what? He only gets 250,000 views on this. Not really worth the money, right? Not worth his time to restart.
Deal with, okay? And, I'll be real with you. If I could tip a retail worker, I probably would after what I've seen. But
You can tip retail workers. Some places, they'll say you're not allowed to accept tips, but the individuals, they will probably still accept tips.
Ladies and gentlemen, to give you an idea, the Nintendo Switch 2 was actually available for pre-order today, okay? So much like the end of the world or that giant moon hitting you in Majora's Mask, this was the point where everybody could go and purchase one of the most beloved systems on the planet. Now, apparently, there's been so much pre-orders going on, at least in Japan, that apparently Nintendo is overwhelmed. So according to good old-fashioned Nintendo, who basically allowed everyone to apply to pre-order a Nintendo Switch 2, ended up getting, at least in Japan, 2.2 million pre-order applications in just Japan alone, okay? So again, to give you an idea, their president goes, far exceeds our expectations and far exceeds the number of Switch 2 consoles that can be delivered from the My Nintendo store on June 5th. Yeah, I have actually never actually seen like this amount of sales.
I have actually never actually. What are we doing, man? You put 2 words in between the actuallys.
Store on June 5th. Yeah, I have actually never actually seen like this amount of sales happening for a system.
Does it even register to him that he said that? I have actually never actually.
5th. Yeah, I have actually never actually seen like this amount of sales.
Like, I'm not going to say I speak perfectly, alright? And I more or less refuse to edit my videos. So I'm sure you could pick stuff out like that. But it's 1 minute and 20 seconds in. And he stumbled and just said they have to deal with metric stuff at Best Buy. And now I have never actually had to actually. What do we do? Just cut the video or reshoot the beginning.
Happening for a system like, back when the PS5 and the Xbox Series X dropped, yeah, we complain about scalpers and everything, but that was a time when like you had COVID, you had supply chain stuff. But typically speaking, even then I was able to kind of see the pre-order screen work. I will say, if you woke up this morning and you decided to be really up in the AM, you go to bestbuy.com, you were...
Okay, now it feels like he's trying to bug me. Maybe I misheard that.
You woke up this morning and you decided to be really up in the AM, you go to Best...
If you woke up this morning and decided to be really up in the AM. So if you woke up this morning and decided to wake up this morning.
I will say, if you woke up this morning and you decided to be really up in the AM, you go to bestbuy.com.
Like I'm a Mutahar hater. I'm willing to admit that. So I'm sure other people you're listening is like, oh, it's not that annoying, Lufa. What are you talking about? Sure. I'm just a hater. We're still not even 2 minutes in. And he just sounds like a complete dope. Pretending to understand the English language. And it's driving me nuts.
You were greeted with one of these screens that made you wait like 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes to access their webpage because they were getting flooded with requests upon requests. GameStop, you had to look at like a 4-hour queue, dude. And even then, it still didn't work. You go to Amazon.ca and you're wondering, where do I get this Switch 2? Well, according to this situation, ladies and gentlemen, I wasn't even able to get a Switch 2, or I wasn't even able to find a Switch 2 here. Because surprisingly, within the hour that everything happened, it was all sold out. It was crazy. It was insane to see. Again, some of these are only available via invitation, meaning that they're going through several layers upon several layers to prevent the dreaded scalper from getting access to it. What if the man says, go to Walmart, one would say? Well, if you go to the Walmart...
Is that the accent of people who shop at Walmart? What was that?
What if the man says, go to Walmart, one would say?
Go to Walmart. Why? Why is that how you say Walmart?
from getting access to it. What if the man says, go to Walmart, one would say. Well, if you go to the
Again, I'm just a Mutahar hater. That probably doesn't even bother people. I just hate Mutahar too much.
Walmart section, you try to pre-order any of these systems, you'll find out they are currently out of stock. And this all happened literally within the hour, okay? So again, I wasn't somebody that was going out of my way to get these systems. For me, I'm actually waiting until these probably come more into stock. There's nothing really on the Switch 2 that excites me to the point where I'm going to go out and spend $700 day one just to play something like Mario Kart. Wasn't really something I was hyped for. So down the road, when like a Zelda comes out, or like a good Pokemon game comes out, or a Mario game comes out, I'll probably end up picking the thing down the road, okay?
So this is pretty much all we need to get from this video. Mutahar says, the Switch 2, as is, given its game catalog, not really worth picking up to me. All there is Mario Kart, and I don't really care. Maybe if there's a Pokemon or a new Zelda game, I would pick it up. But for now, not really that interested. And I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, the video is called Why I'm Not Buying the Nintendo Switch 2 Right Now. Okay. I guess maybe he literally meant why I'm not clicking pre-order at this very moment, and it was just because there's such a long queue for the websites and they're all sold out right away. Maybe that's all that he meant. But you can see on his Twitter, as of June 5th, he says they had plenty of these in stock. And there he's got his Switch 2. And he uploads a video 2 days ago. So it was that also June 5th. Called Switch 2 Dropped, and it's not impressive. And he mentions this video that we just watched a little bit of at the very beginning here.
Why am I buying that Switch 2 right now, said the Indian guy. The Switch 2's sitting on his desk. Now let me explain, okay? Let me explain.
So I think he got caught. It was in the back of some other post that he made, some other video or something. People saw, wait, is that the Switch 2 you said you're not going to buy, Mutahar? And so he felt called out. And he makes this video.
Why I'm not buying that Switch 2 right now, said the Indian guy. The Switch 2's sitting on his desk. Now let me explain, okay? Let me explain myself real quick. I actually had no intentions of picking this device up, but surprisingly, Nintendo has done a pretty good job. Was that a voice crack? God damn, am I slipping through people? Jesus. But I actually had no intention.
Are you nervous? Because once again, your audience made you back down. And you felt the need. Okay, wait. Does he just have a gun on his desk here? Okay, that's odd. Is he trying to intimidate me? That's for all the haters. Anybody who wants to criticize him, just know he's got a gun on his desk. But anyway, yeah, people just saw this in the background, and now he's uploading a whole video and be like, oh, they made the Indian guy said this, and then it turns out, oh, it's completely not true. So I'm gonna upload a video justifying why I did this.
I actually had no intentions of picking this device up, but surprisingly, Nintendo has done a pretty good job. Was that a voice crack? God damn, am I slipping through people? Jesus.
Oh, it was the voice crack. I got distracted by the gun. But yeah, he's so nervous. Because once again, his audience disagreed with him lightly. And he's like, oh my goodness, I better take everything back. And it makes his voice crack because he's so intensely nervous and afraid of all of his viewers and subscribers.
But I actually had no intention. Surprisingly, Nintendo has a pretty decent stock pool of these things. I actually called up a EB Games near my place, probably like 20 minutes away. And they said, yeah, you can just walk in and pick up a Switch 2 tonight. And I was like, you know what? What if I could? So, ladies and gentlemen.
So he says he has no intention of getting one. But then literally as soon as it's possible for him to get one, oh, well, I'll go get one then. So you did have intentions of getting one. It was literally just the fact that the pre-orders were too busy and you couldn't. Right? I did a video about Kino Casino, PPP, and Andy Worski got into a fight. Well, it wasn't even really a fight. It was just PPP making fun of Andy Worski, saying, you're going to get the Switch 2. You're going to get the Switch 2, you little Nintendo baby. And Andy Worski was very upset. He was almost on the verge of tears. He told PPP, please stop saying these things. I'm getting genuinely upset. And then I saw some clip, I don't even remember what video it was on. It sounded like they were both buying the Switch 2. They were both trying to pre-order it or get it as soon as it came out. I don't know why these people do these things. It's just, this is why I hate all of these Smash JT, any of these people who talk about the stuff that goes on in the games industry, because gamers will say, this is the worst thing happening in gaming right now, and then instantly go and support it monetarily. It's so obnoxious. I don't know how you listen to any of these people.
Place, probably like 20 minutes away. And they said, yeah, you can just walk in and pick up a Switch 2 tonight. And I was like, you know what? What if I could? So, ladies and gentlemen, I thought.
Wait, also look at this. Does he have this same blue polo on under this hoodie here? It looks like he has the Best Buy polo underneath this hoodie. Is that just his go-to shirt? He wears it multiple times a week?
You typically have to pre-order these. I don't know, the last several years of like buying any electronic, it almost feels like you either have to go through a scalper or actually wait a month before these devices become available. But there's actually like Switches available. Like you can go pick them up in the store right now. At least where I live, in the outskirts of the Greater Toronto area. Okay, I don't want to like dox myself through this. So I was out with my brother. You know, we were we
Which, in case you don't know, his address is 2174 County Road G. And he says it's outside of Toronto, but it is in Toronto. That's his address if you're
we
interested.
had good food. We had a good time, and we were like, you know what? It's 10 o'clock. Why don't we try the entire Switch? So I go to the store, and the lineup is long, okay? But it gets even longer, by the way, to the point where one of the employees has to come out and they're just going like, listen, we can't just sell Switches to like 600 people. You're gonna have to leave. And at one point in the line, it got cut off, but we were pretty much at the front of the door anyways. I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised I got there in time. For the first time in my life, I actually managed to make going
Listen to the actuallys of this
come
man.
out and they're just going like, listen, we can't just sell Switches to like 600 people. You're gonna have to leave. And at one point in the line, it got cut off, but we were pretty much at the front of the door anyways. I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised I got there in time. For the first time in my life, I actually managed to make.
Again, I think that's the same sentence. He throws in two actuallys into the same sentence. How long have you been making money talking to people? And actually is such a crutch word for you. That's bizarre. I don't even think that's a common crutch word. Obviously, like is a word that people use as a crutch word very often. And people will use it multiple times in a sentence, and it's very annoying. I did a video talking about how annoyed I am with everybody endlessly talking about Ethan and Hassan and iDubbbz, but they don't even pick up on things that they should pick up and make fun of them for. I said in that video, I believe what I said was that in the course of a minute, iDubbbz said, 8 or 9 times in a minute. And then I thought, you know what, I should put that in the video. And I put it in the video. And when I rewatched the video, I believe it was 12 times that he said, in a minute. Such a crutch word. Mutahar is on his way there to saying actually 11 or 12 times in a minute. It's not that hard. Really, it's not that hard.
But we were pretty much at the front of the door anyways. I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised I got there in time. For the first time in my life, I actually managed to make going up to one of these lineups actually.
Oh, so that might have been 2 sentences. But either way, back-to-back actually sentences.
Worth it. But to be fair, midnight releases, man, they're a dying breed, okay? I remember distinctly being in high school, like, waiting for, like, what? Gears of War, Call of Duty, Halo Reach. You know, that golden age of 360 gaming, it feels like the midnight launch is dying. Like, it's a great place. Like, you go out to these places, you talk to gamers, you meet some cool people. It's a fun vibe, okay? The last time.
It's a place you don't want to be when Mutahar is saying the people there are cool. No, thank you. I don't want to go anywhere where Mutahar thinks the people there are cool. Anyway, I don't think that there's really any need to watch any more of this video anyway. We can get onto the apology video, but this was just him saying, oh, yeah, I said I wasn't going to buy it, and then I bought it, right, guys? And you'd think that would be enough. That he says, yeah, I know I said I wasn't going to buy it, and then I bought it. What a dumb Indian of me. Or whatever it was that he said at the beginning. But that was not. And again, the dislike extensions, not accurate. But according to that, it's saying he has 16,247 upvotes to 11,620 downvotes. Can't really go off of that too much, but let's look at the comments themselves and see what those have to say. Because people were not happy with Mutahar. They'd had enough, actually. Bro told us not to buy it, so he had a better chance at getting one early. Bro stood on nothing. How your torso is able to stay erect in that chair without a spine is quite impressive. Bro didn't even wait 1 week. Vote with your wallet. Proceeds to vote yes. I'm not going to buy the Switch 2. Folds like origami and buys the Switch 2 on launch day. Congratulations, you bought a system you don't need in order to buy a game you already owned. Peak 2025 gamer. Which, if I remember correctly, he bought Cyberpunk, and then I can't remember. It was like some trilogy of games that had been out for a while. I think he bought that was rolled into one or something. I don't remember. I'm not much of a gamer. I had no intent of buying it, but I called the store to see if they had any, and when they said they did, I bought one. Bro, skull emoji. Bro didn't even wait for a second. Someone should make a compilation video of YouTubers who trashed the Switch 2 and complained about the price increase, but still ended up buying it. I've literally read every single top comment so far. They are all critical of Mutahar. This is like when you deleted Twitter, only to come back a month later. The Switch 2 is not impressive. Proceeds to go on a rant for 10 minutes about how fantastic Cyberpunk looks on the Switch 2. Stop buying overhyped games on release. Okay, bro, you first. Next video, why I played the Switch 2 nonstop and you shouldn't. Bro put his foot down so hard on the Switch 2, it bounced up from the force and landed right in his hands. Alright, we can stop there. I was hoping eventually I'd get to one positive comment, but I'm not just going to endlessly read the comments there. So, as I said earlier, I'm very thankful that for once, the Mutahar fans did not just clap like seals and said, "Oh, Mutahar, what an honest guy." The only YouTuber who would admit that he made a mistake, that would admit what he said at one point in time was not true or that he changed his mind or anything. They actually are annoyed with him, which I appreciate, because usually when I'm doing these videos where I call out Mutahar for whatever it is that he's doing that I hate, that I can't stand, you go into the comments of the videos and they're all clapping like seals and they love him. And it's just fantastic. Whatever Mutahar is doing. It doesn't matter how deplorable it is, how disgusting it is. They love it. They eat it up every single time, just about. But I think this time, because it would have cost them $650 to disagree with Mutahar, if they would have been able to afford the Switch 2 for themselves, then they probably wouldn't have a problem. But these are all people that probably couldn't afford the Switch 2, weren't able to get a hold of it. Well, now they're mad. Now they're mad at Mutahar. Whatever. I'll take it. Anyway, this is the video that he simply entitled, Sorry. That's how you know he means it. Put a lot of effort into that title. Really thought about it. Sorry.
Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and let's just talk about it, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, wait, and then is this again the same shirt? So here you can see, pretty sure he's got the blue polo on underneath it. June 5th. Was this June 5th also, maybe? No, this is June 6th. What was the first video? April 24th. So the man owns one shirt and a hoodie. Alright, anyway.
Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and let's just talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. I made a mistake. I ended up buying that Nintendo Switch 2, even though I said that.
He made a mistake. You accidentally bought it, or you accidentally said people shouldn't buy it? It wasn't a mistake. You hopped on the anti-Nintendo thing because you thought you could get some views doing it, but the whole time you knew you wanted to buy a Nintendo Switch 2. So as soon as you could, you bought it. Alright, you just have no convictions. You will say things that you think are popular and you can get away with. Because, oh, lots of people are saying this. I could probably say this, and people will say, good job, Mutahar, we love you, Mutahar. Excellent video, Mutahar. That's all that he wants. That's basically what drives him to keep doing YouTube videos.
I made a mistake. I ended up buying that Nintendo Switch 2, even though I said that I was going to hold off. I wasn't just going to go buy it outright. And there I was, going on a midnight release, and I ended up picking it, just on a walk-in. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, there's no way to sugarcoat or cut around.
Was it just a walk-in? Could have sworn, and maybe this was because I've listened to some of this ahead of time. I could have sworn he said he called the store, and they said you can come in now and get one. That's not just a walk-in, right? That to me indicates more interest than if you were just like, oh, hey, we're in this store anyway. Let's see if they have any Switch 2s. No, you had it on your mind, these Switch 2s, and you called, was it EB? EB2? I might be making that up. I swear he said he called some store, and he asked, do you guys have any Switch 2s? And they said, yeah, you can just come on in and buy them. And so he did that. Probably drove somewhat out of his way to do that.
Just on a walk-in. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, there's no way to sugarcoat or cut around this. I did, in fact, commit a hypocrisy. I made a mistake. I should have not bought this product. Now, I made a...
No, Mutahar, you should have bought it because you're rich and you wanted to buy it. What you shouldn't have done is hop on this anti-Nintendo, they raised their prices wave. I think that's what people were upset about, is that they said the games are going to be more expensive. I don't know. Like I said, I don't keep up with the gamers that much. But I'm pretty sure it's that they want to charge like 80 or 90 bucks for the games. And also maybe that the games aren't actually going to be on the cartridge or whatever. It's going to be one of those things where you're paying for a code and you have to download it anyway. And I don't think the Switch 2 has a ton of space. So you're not going to be able to even have very many games on it. Which, if the whole game was in the cartridge, that wouldn't matter that much. Actually, I'm pretty sure I am right about this, because I think he said that Cyberpunk was good because the whole game was actually on the cartridge. So I think that was actually part of it. People were mad about those sorts of things. So either you could have said, hey, these things suck. I'm probably still going to buy it because I like the Nintendo games, or I can make money off of reviewing it, or whatever. You can make up a reason, you can be honest. I don't care. But he wanted to hop on this anti-Nintendo, they're raising their prices. It's all digital downloads instead of physical copies, whatever it is. The price of the console's too high. Maybe that was the thing. I don't even know. But he could have just said that and said, I probably still will buy it. Or just shut up and don't make the easy criticize Nintendo because everybody else is doing it video. But he needs to dip his toes into every single one of these. He's no better than the Paul brothers, where they have to lick every single little penny up off of the table. You can't leave any money on the table, even if it is 3 pennies. You have to debase yourself and slide your tongue across the table in order to get those last 3 little pennies. That's what Mutahar did there.
A few videos on the Switch 2, well, not a few, several. And I've basically covered it. I've not been the most positive viewer of it, especially around certain things like those game key cards, and especially about their TOS, when apparently it seems like they can just brick your systems, and more specifically around the fact that maybe the system is in fact a brick when you ended up picking it up. Now, as you all know, yesterday I made a pretty big mistake. I actually made a video with the Switch 2 inside the actual frame. I actually had one on screen. I bought one. I used it to play Cyber.
Okay, so that is what revealed this to people. So they saw it in the background of one of his videos. So that was the only reason he was even pretending to own it. Where he said, oh, look at this stupid Indian that said, don't buy this, or I'm not going to buy the Switch 2, and then bought the Switch 2 right away. It was only because he had been completely called out. That was the only reason he was willing to make a joke at his expense.
Inside the actual frame, I actually had one on screen.
Okay, well, did he just actually me again? Did he just double actually me again?
Up. Now, as you all know, yesterday I made a pretty big mistake. I actually made a video with the Switch 2 inside the actual frame. I actually had one on screen.
No, he triple actualed me.
Actually made it up. Now, as you all know, yesterday I made a pretty big mistake. I actually made a video with the Switch 2 inside the actual frame. I actually had one on screen. I bought one.
Triple actually. And again, We're 1 minute into the video. I don't think he even realizes that he does this. I think his ears have some sort of disease where they don't hear the word actually. I don't know how he could keep doing this because he just did within 7 seconds. He said actually 3 times and just thought, no, that sounds good. I'll keep that. Why would I restart that? I'm doing this very sincere, heartfelt apology. So just goes to show how nervous this guy is. Oh, I said I'm not going to buy the Switch 2. Then people saw that I had a Switch 2. Got to do an apology to these people. And he's basically nervous as can be. Triple actioning up and down the aisle.
With the Switch 2 inside the actual frame, I actually had one on screen. I bought one. I used it to play Cyberpunk 2077 on it. Now, the reason why this was a pretty big mistake, and I do absolutely believe I should actually apologize to my audience, is
Okay. This is beyond the point where only a Mutahar hater such as myself should be annoyed. This is just annoying to listen to somebody use the word actually this much. This is like a valley girl who says like every other like word and just like says the word like over and over again. It's very annoying to listen to.
the reason why this was a pretty big mistake, and I do absolutely believe I should actually apologize to my audience, is I didn't practice what I preached. You know, I said you should vote with your wallet, and what did I do? I straight up charged my card and got the Switch 2. And for that, it's actually a pretty big apology. Like, there's no
He can't be stopped. The man won't stop saying actually.
way to really say anything. There's no really any way to sugarcoat it. It's an actual mistake. You know, you can sit and
Okay. What is his problem? What is his problem? How is it this hard to not say the word actually over and over again? These last 2 pauses, I did not rewind. He just keeps saying it over and over and over again. We'll go back and listen to him say actually 14 times
vote
again.
with your wallet. And what did I do? I straight up charged my card and got the Switch 2. And for that, it's actually a pretty big apology. Like, there's no way to really say anything. There's no really any way to sugarcoat it. It's an actual mistake. You know, you can sit and blame other people, but ultimately, you know, I think the community kind of made it known that I would be one of those gamers that would fall into FOMO. And even though that I don't personally think that I'm the reason that video games have just gotten more expensive.
Of course, you're not personally the reason, Mutahar. No individual is personally the reason that any industry is the way that it is. It's all the Mutahars of the world who complain about these sorts of things and then just buy the game anyway. Oh, they put out an Assassin's Creed every year and it's exactly the same. It's so dumb. Why do they keep doing this? I hate this. Oh, what do you know? I bought Assassin's Creed again. Or FIFA or whatever it is. That's why I can't stand listening to the gamers of the world complain about these sorts of things. So they say, oh, this thing is so terrible and it needs to go. It needs to be erased from the game industry. And also, I'll buy all of the games that do it.
I don't personally think that I'm the reason that video games have just gotten more expensive. Ultimately,
I mean, like, what a stupid point. Has a single person said, Mutahar, you are ruining the games industry? No. No, not a single gamer, not a single person on the internet has said that. Because it would be completely idiotic.
I think that I'm the reason that video games have just gotten more expensive. Ultimately, the actions that I did do contribute to the fact that video games would have gotten more expensive, or at least the aspect of it would become more normalized. And ultimately, there's really no other way to, you know, just apologize and say that I'll do better moving forward, you know? And to be fair, the biggest sigh of relief for me is to sit over here and apologize for purchasing a video game system, right? There's a lot of things that a YouTuber can do that would be very illegal, very wrong, ethically, not even just legally, that I could.
That is right, Mutahar. You could have broken the law. You could have hit somebody with your car. You could have shot them with the gun that was in the other video. There are worse things that you could have done. So I guess really we shouldn't care. Good point.
that would be very illegal, very wrong, ethically, not even just legally, that I could sit down here and apologize for. And that is the only thing that I've really thanked God today for not doing. You know, I could apologize for far more worse, but
You thanked God that you didn't break the law? All right. I assumed you had a level of restraint where you wouldn't need to thank God. Dear God, thank you so much for helping me not kill anybody today. I really appreciate it because jail seems awful. Really? That's a stressor that you have?
you know, realistically, it's just apologizing for purchasing the system that, you know, I kind of made a big hullabaloo about, right? And obviously, gaming boycotts are something that unfortunately traditionally do not work just because people end up buying them. And in this case,
Because people. All right, I might have paused Andy there, actually. 'Cause it sounds like he's about to say, including myself. So let's hear him out before I go
or
into that.
something that unfortunately traditionally do not work just because people end up buying them. And in this case, I was one of those people.
Okay. In this case, he was one of those people. Fair enough.
Now, I do want to kind of defend myself a little bit and just kind of talk about this, you know, because I don't want to just say that, you know, I don't want to just say sorry. I do want to give an explanation. Obviously, that night I was coming home.
I don't want to say sorry. I just want to come up with some BS excuse. They say, like, oh no, it was actually super justified for me to buy this. Even though I said, there's not really going to be any games that I care to play when this comes out, so I'm not going to get it.
You know, I don't want to just say sorry. I do want to give an explanation. Obviously, that night I was coming home, bought a Switch, and one of the reasons I wanted to buy the Switch is to kind of look at that brick capability. I wanted to see if you can fire the system up, you can make a local account, you can connect without, you know, utilizing any patches, and thankfully you actually can, you know, as long as
Actually can. That's so great to hear that you actually can.
you know, utilizing any patches. And thankfully you actually can, you know, as long as you have a Switch 2 and of course a game, which this is something that I'm actually keeping stock or not.
Do other people hear this? Or am I just this deep into the Mutahar hate that only I hear him say actually 14 times a minute and get genuinely irritated by it?
Switch 2 and of course a game, which this is something that I'm actually keeping stock or not just actually I had a Cyberpunk.
Okay. How does he not hear this? How do other people not? This is not a criticism that I've heard of Mutahar. That 1/5 of his vocabulary is the word actually.
Which this is something that I'm actually keeping stock or not just actually I had a Cyberpunk 2077. As long as you have a game with an actual you know, completed update on
He just said it 3 times in 10 seconds.
the cartridge, this system is completely usable offline, which was pretty important to me because I didn't want to see another system release as a pure on brick. So as long as you have a system with, again, a video game, it seems things can just work out of the box. Now, as far as Switch 1 stuff,
Was this a fear? I have no idea what this supposed problem is talking about. People thought it was going to be a brick when you buy the Switch 2? Wouldn't that be a controversy of some sort? I would think people would be very upset. They are buying Switch 2s and they are bricked out the box. Maybe I'm not understanding something, but seems very stupid that you would have to buy a Switch 2 to confirm for other people. No, guys, it's actually not a brick. There's some electrical nonsense going on, and you can turn the power on and play games and stuff like that. Oh, thank goodness some ordinary gamers bought a Switch 2, so now I know it's not a brick. They got something going on inside where you can play video games with it or something.
goes, that still needed you to patch for getting the backwards compatibility going in. But if you were just buying Switch 2 games, then surprisingly, everything just worked out of the box. The other thing I wanted to see was, again, the functionality of these games too, especially one game completed on the system. And for that, I played Cyberpunk 2077. In fact, that was a pretty massive section of the video where I just showed the game actually running for anybody to come into the video, watch, and see. Now, I could make the video overly negative or I could make it overly positive, but the reason I just kind of went the way that I did was I wanted to just objectively look at this product as what it was and talk about things, right? And, one of the things that I kind of read was like, the grifter stuff. You were just grifting on that hate. Well, if I was grifting on the hate and I released that, video, I would probably be overly negative, or I would try to spread some level of misinformation to garner more viewership on hating the device or loving the device.
Well, you can't really do that after you've been exposed as a flip-flopper, right? If you said, "Oh, I'm not going to buy the Nintendo Switch 2 because there's no reason to buy it at the beginning, plus the prices are going up, plus whatever this is about bricked consoles," and then you right away bought it anyway, and then pretended to crap on it, people would see through that. They would be saying, "What are you doing, Mutahar? You said you're not going to buy this, and then you just buy it right away." And now it seems like you're pretending to say it's really bad to justify what you did. Say, "Oh no, I had to get it to protect people from this." No, you wouldn't get away with that. Obviously, he didn't really get away with doing it this way either, but that's because he's spineless.
But in reality, I just wanted to cover things from an objective perspective. I wanted to show that there were some games, Cyberpunk 2077, which worked out of the box day one. Now there is like one other game, or I think actually three other games, all from Nintendo that all come pretty much on the cartridge, being Mario Kart World, Legend of Zelda, both Legend of Zeldas, and they all just come pretty much without that game key card stuff. So one of the things that I didn't do in that video was obviously buy the game key card stuff. Like I didn't go out into the store and purchase those gimped copies that I was speaking so much against, which again, I only really bought the system and the one game that was of any interest to me, just so I can show it in the video. And ultimately, regardless of what I'm saying over here, all of that is still a mistake. I was hypocritical. I bought a device that, I actually shouldn't have. I contributed to, unfortunately, a bad practice in the gaming industry, right? Which was supporting this Nintendo system. I did want to cover it from a review perspective. I did want to cover it just from the preservation.
No, Mutahar, you didn't. You wanted the Switch 2 the whole time, but you thought, "Hey, I can probably get 250,000 views on a handful of videos talking about Nintendo bad, raising prices bad, whatever other criticisms of Nintendo bad." But you wanted the console the whole time, and so then as soon as you knew you could get it, you got it. Stop trying to justify it. I just wanted to protect and inform people. No, you wanted to make videos that you thought would do well, that you thought people would agree with, because there's a lot of people criticizing Nintendo and upset with Nintendo. So you thought, "Oh, I'll do these videos. Lots of people will agree with me and say, 'Good job, Mutahar. So smart, Mutahar. We love you, Mutahar,'" which are the magic words to him. There's nothing he loves to hear more than people agreeing with him in his comments. But then he also wanted a Nintendo Switch 2, so as soon as he could get one, he got one. Now he has to justify it, saying, "Oh no, guys, I know I said I wasn't going to get one, but the only reason I did was to protect you."
Conservationist perspective to see if a lot of those alarm bells that were ringing literally days before the system was actually launching were actually valid alarm bells. But ultimately, look, at the end of the day, there's nothing I can say to, not accept actual fault at purchasing the system when I made a big hullabaloo about it. And ultimately, for that, I do completely apologize. There's no joke, no fun you can make in this manner. I feel like
There's no fun we can make? What is my video then? I thought my video was making fun of you, Mutahar. Are you trying to stop me from doing that?
guys, there's no joke, no fun you can make in this manner. I feel like ultimately I do have to apologize for that, and that's what I do. Now, if you're somebody that is looking at me and you don't want to watch my videos anymore because you don't like me,
I never wanted to watch your videos, Mutahar. I do it out of spite every time, and because I think maybe I can get a couple views out of it.
looking at me, and you don't want to watch my videos anymore because you don't like me anymore because of the Switch 2 stuff, then I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to wave by. We're gonna have to wave by at each other. All I can really do is say I'm sorry. That's really all I can do. I can't just whip myself.
Yeah, that's a very accurate statement. All you really can do is say sorry. That seems to be the one thing you're capable of doing over an extended period of time is just apologizing and backing down. No matter what it is that he does or says, the one consistent thing you can count on Mutahar to do is to back down and apologize.
Or do something to self-flagellate myself just for the camera at this point. All I can really do is say I'm sorry, and I'll do better next time. And ultimately, for me, as somebody that's made tons of videos on countering misinformation regarding game preservation, when people talk about, like, how every disc nowadays is a digital download and there really isn't any way to preserve video games anymore. And I have made videos where I've talked about this, I've corrected the misinformation. For me, the Switch 2 was kind of like that, right? I wanted to see if in this situation, game preservation, at least for fully completed titles, was actually there. And obviously, I did make a point in that video, if you watch it, where I said, when this device has 256 gigs on it, buying game key cards, already completely incomplete copies, you're going to be basically downloading and filling your entire new system up with just like, 4 or 5 games effectively down the road. And that's going to become a pretty huge problem, not just for game preservation, but for the average person that, probably isn't also going to spend 80, 90 bucks, 70 bucks, whatever, to buy external media for the system. These are all things that I did talk about in the video, and these were kind of the most important things for me too. The other thing was obviously seeing how a game like Cyberpunk
No, the most important thing to you was justifying buying a console that you said you weren't going to buy.
2077 could run on a newer ARM-based chip device. Now, ultimately, as part of my apology, all I can really say is, look, at the end, I am sorry. I probably shouldn't have contributed to Nintendo's dog shit in video gaming, but ultimately I did. And, I'm one of the bad people in this process.
Well, I think it should go the other way around. If you just want to be a consumer and buy things that you think are fun or bring some level of happiness to your life, just do that. The thing you shouldn't have done is jumped on this anti-Nintendo wave performatively because it doesn't seem like you believed any of these things. Because if you really believed them, then you wouldn't have bought the console, right? So I would rather people just shut up and don't say things that they don't believe in, only to show through their actions that they don't believe those things, right? I would rather you just shut up, don't say these things that you don't believe in, and then buy the console, rather than you say these things that you apparently don't believe in, and then don't buy a console just to prove that you believe in those things, even though you actually don't.
Now, do I think that I'm the most evil person in the world?
Yes, I do.
The bad people in this process. Now, do I think that I'm the most evil person in the world? No, I don't think that. And I don't even see really anybody saying that. But as far as being hypocritical and
Okay. Well, obviously he couldn't have seen my video because it's after the fact, but if he would have seen I do think you're the most evil person out there. And I think you're single-handedly ruining the gaming industry and YouTube. So there you go, Mutahar.
and I don't even see really anybody saying that. But as far as being hypocritical and bad for gaming, I can definitely see how I've contributed to that, and for that I just really humbly apologize. There's no if, and, or but around it. It is just a straight apology.
You say that, but then you spent a decent chunk of this video, and what was the other video? 20 minutes in the video before, justifying why you bought it to protect gamers from the bricking thing, whatever the brick nonsense is. I don't know what the brick stuff is. And the fact that you have to download all of these video games, and are some of them available on the actual cartridge and stuff like that. Right? If you were just apologizing, you wouldn't have brought up that, oh, I was trying to protect and inform everybody. You would have just said, I said this one thing, I did the complete opposite, I'm sorry. But that's not what you did.
to anybody that felt slighted, hurt, or disappointed in this entire process. For that, my community is pretty important to me. And ultimately, I really did feel like, because I had a platform and I could talk a little bit about the game preservation angle, maybe it was worth showing. To me, if there was something really scathing about it in this device, it would have been a completely warranted purchase, because then I could at least alert some people that, yeah, this thing is actually a confirmed brick. Yes, actually, all these games, even the ones
Actually.
that, yeah, this thing is actually a confirmed brick. Yes, actually, all these games, even the ones that ship completely on cart, don't just work day one. These would be pretty huge points. But when I actually got the device and I tested it myself, I couldn't find that to be the case. So it was really just to be honestly reporting on something versus, maybe raising more misinformation and hurting myself down the road a lot harder than, the hurt that I've taken right now. But yeah, that's really all I have to say. I can just look into the camera and just say, I'm sorry, I'll do better. And that's pretty much all it comes down to. And the only thing I'm really thankful about here is I could be apologizing for, like, as a YouTuber, there's apology videos that I've watched through my career where people have done really terrible things. And ultimately, this might be one of the worst things that I've done. What genuinely is support bad game practices and, not practice what I preach. I can't make videos where I say I'm not going to be buying a Nintendo Switch, day one at least. And then here I am buying it day one, even if personally I felt making the content, and at least if I could find something scathing about it, I could talk about, sure. But for me, I'm still not somebody that is in line to be, I guess, known as a hypocrite in this regard. And for that, I do apologize. I've done something wrong, which is purchasing the device after the hullabaloo that I've raised. And for that, all I can do is honestly just apologize. Really, that's all I can
Apologize and make excuses and try to justify why you bought it.
do. So if you accept this apology, great.
I don't.
If you don't accept this apology, then it is what it is. But yeah, our word is really all.
A little bit of Innuendo Studios in there. What was that up there?
Yeah, our word is.
I'm just so disappointed in myself, guys.
Really all we have. That's really what it comes down to. What I will not apologize for is purchasing and keeping Cyberpunk 2077 on the Switch. I really feel like even if you're not buying the Nintendo Switch 2 and you've got the money, you should probably signal to the industry that buying a completed Switch game, or buying a complete product on launch with all the DLC onto it is something that should be supported, right? Especially considering that a lot of games release with tons of great expansion packs that never end up showing up on actual release anymore. Like, they don't get re-released.
What happened here? It happened, I don't remember if it was this video or one of the earlier ones, but it looked like one of his lights shut off, or the light from his monitor went down. So it kind of made sense that his camera would stop focusing. But this time it just completely stopped focusing out of nowhere.
Tons of great expansion packs that never end up showing up on actual release anymore. Like, they don't get re-released down the road. It used to be back in the day that when a game launched a year later, after it got like 3-4 single-player expansions, you ended up getting like a Game of the Year edition. Now you still get the Game of the Year edition, but sometimes, in most cases, you end up getting like a little piece of paper inside with a code that doesn't even have the whole game. So yeah, for that, I will never actually truly apologize for this, nor will I ever apologize for picking up games like Stalker, which are these completed Japanese re-releases of 3 games on 1 cartridge. But anyways, I'm kind of talking and talking in circles, really. Apologize for the Switch 2 stuff.
Well, that's all you ever do, Mutahar, is you say one thing, people push back, so you apologize for it, and effectively talk in a circle. Because you've gone nowhere. You've said a lot, but you've gone more or less nowhere. You said a thing, people disagree with you, so then you take it back. And it's as if you never said anything.
Didn't practice what I preached there, and all I can say is I'm sorry, and I'll do better. Simple as that. I'm out.
Yeah, I very much doubt you'll do better. But let's see what people have to say in this comment section. Post Nintendo Clarity, referencing the post Nux Clarity video. The lack of ukuleles is profoundly upsetting. As penance, you must use Windows for all of your systems for the entire year. You just know if GTA 6 costs $100, Mutahar will be first to pre-order it, to review it. Okay. Appreciate somebody calling that out where he's trying to justify, oh no, guys, I know I said I wasn't going to buy it, but I want to protect you all from the potential horrors of buying a bricked console or whatever it was. Turns out he really is some ordinary gamer. True. Oh, I want to call it the one where he says, here, you know, if GTA 6 costs $100, Muda will be the first to pre-order it to review it. It only has 162 likes. The other ones have thousands of likes. This just confirms that gamers don't know how to vote with their wallets, folded under zero pressure. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why the industry is in such a sad state. I laughed so hard when I saw the title for this video because I instantly knew what it was going to be about. Muda switched on us, literally. Crying face emoji. Arch Linux Muda would have never done this. This was genuinely the easiest thing to not fumble. You didn't even give any valid reason for having the Switch. You were so adamant on how you weren't going to buy the Switch, and your reason to buy one was because they had it in stock. Peak gamer consumerism. I can't believe he would switch to a different opinion. I have made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment, and I don't expect to be forgiven, he said quietly to the cashier as he handed over his Amex. The sorry situation is crazy. Yup, you definitely made a mistake. Went to a midnight release, probably pre-ordered it, swiped your credit card, drove home, booted up the console, and played the system. Yup, definitely a good honest mistake. Anyone buying the I wanted to test the bricking capabilities has to be gullible, because that is one of the most obvious lies I've ever seen. Okay, I appreciate this guy saying it, because I don't know what he's talking about with the bricking stuff. It sounds like nonsense to me. My understanding is that if an electronic is a brick, it means it never worked. I don't understand how that would be a real problem. People would be completely up in arms if they were buying a console and it was bricked off of the bat. But this guy, who seems, I'm assuming, knows more about video games than me, is saying that's one of the most obvious lies ever. Hey, at least you spent $700 to play the same game you've already played 10 times over, and now you can say it's pretty good before you go back to playing Cyberpunk on your PC. As Johnny Silverhand would say, mindless consumerism at its best. Buddha lived long enough to see himself become the villain for a day. No. He's been the villain for at least a year now. As long as I've been keeping up with him, he's been an absolute disgusting villain. But some people also did theorize that this video by Charlie, just watch a couple minutes of this, this video is why Muda felt pressured into making his response here, because without mentioning Mutahar, Charlie Penguinzo actually calls out Mutahar quite a bit.
There are two things in this world that never work under any circumstances: the McDonald's ice cream machines and gaming boycotts. Gamers have an insatiable appetite to consume. To reject that urge goes against their very nature. Anytime something shiny comes out, you can bet your sweet bippy it will be purchased and played, no matter how vocal people are about abstaining from it and not buying it. Like, the most notable being Modern Warfare 2. There was a big hoopla and a huge movement about boycotting Modern Warfare 2. And then if you went into like the Steam group from the big boycott organization, almost every single person in there was currently online on launch day playing the game. And that's just kind of been the song and dance for gaming boycotts forever, really. Of course, there have been some outliers, a few exceptions, where people really did vote with their wallets and voted no. That has happened. It's just not common. And right now, there was a huge push against the Nintendo Switch 2 for a lot of bad business practices, and people were talking about how they're definitely not buying it this time around, they don't want to support it. And I'm sure you can already guess chapter 2 of this story here, the climax. The Nintendo Switch 2 releases, and that shit has been gobbled up like a bowl of cereal by a ton of people that were very outspoken against the Switch 2. And
as I mentioned earlier, Andy Worski on Kino Casino was indignant that PPP would even joke that, no, Andy, I know you're going to buy the console right away. I know you're going to buy the Nintendo Switch 2. He's like, don't you say that. I don't care about Mario Kart. I would never do that. And then some other video or live stream, I saw them. I'm pretty sure they were both trying to pre-order it. How? How do you take anything that these gamer people say? And it especially annoys me with Andy Worski because I see him shout out these people like Yellow Flash and those sorts of people who do all of this video game culture criticism stuff, and then they just don't stand by anything that they say. That's what annoys me to no end. Right? If you had these strong opinions and you just stuck to them, it wouldn't annoy me at all. Fair enough. Have your opinion. But the fact that you're so vocal about this stuff, and then just based on nothing, just because you want to, because you didn't mean any of the things that you said, you go and support these things that you pretended to be against. That's what drives me absolutely insane. Just shut up then. Just shut up. Don't say the things that you don't believe and just buy the thing that you want to buy.
Talking about like they won't be purchasing it, which was all very easy to say before it was available. But now that it's here,
Yeah, so normally I would be either completely ignoring Charlie or hating on him, but this is a solid enough point here.
spoken against the Switch 2 and talking about like they won't be purchasing it, which was all very easy to say before it was available. But now that it's here, they have jumped on that opportunity to own one enthusiastically and are playing it furiously and enjoying it too. I didn't expect the Switch 2 to flop. It was very predictable that everyone that was rallying against it was going to inevitably purchase it because this is like clockwork. It happens all the time in gaming. It was always going to be a super success. And I talked about that numerous times over my coverage of Nintendo and everything that's been going on there recently. So I'm not surprised that I'm not angry or anything either. I just find it very silly. And unfortunately, it's putting me in a pickle where a lot of people think I'm going to cave and buy a Switch 2 any day now.
Don't really care about the rest of it. Just, he said, oh, lots of people criticized this when it wasn't available. But then what do you know? As soon as it's available, all these people bought it. Also, I don't know if this is the case. Is Goof Juice, is this something that Penguenzo is selling? You should maybe fill your fridge up with it. Because it doesn't really look like it's a product that you believe in. It looks as if this is a completely empty, untouched Goof Juice fridge. It says code moist there, so I'm assuming that's one of his products. Not very believable. I'm not gonna buy. Oh, he doesn't even bother to keep any of this in his fridge? There's no way he really likes it that much. Why would I buy this from him? I don't know. Maybe I'm completely off base and it's not something that he sells. But anyway, so you go to the comments here, and I hate how people complain about how expensive the Switch 2 and the games are, but then they buy it anyways. Like, what? Gaming boycotts are as effective as Reddit boycotts. Muda spent a month plus crapping on Nintendo and the people who would buy it, yet turned around and bought it on launch night. 15,000 likes. Same reason why big influencers almost never actually get canceled. People will talk, hate, continue to consume the content, and forget about the problem after a few months. The fans will always turn a blind eye when it inconveniences them. How brave of Muda to leave the comments open. 4.1 thousand likes. Mutahar, why I'm not buying the Switch 2. Also, Mutahar day 1. Hey, look at my Switch 2. 7.7 thousand likes. Mutahar buying it on midnight release, right after making multiple videos criticizing it and telling people not to buy it, and even making a whole video explaining why he won't buy it, was pretty depressing. 9.5 thousand likes. Well, there are actually a lot of Mutahar comments down here. Muda spent the last 2 months telling everyone not to buy it and caves immediately. What a disingenuous grifter. Muda folded in less than 24 hours. So much for principles. Charlie calling out Muda for buying a Switch 2 without saying his name. My theory is Muda was trying to make less people buy a Switch 2 in hopes that he could get a pre-order. The flaw in your I'm assuming it's just a joke, but if not, the flaw in your thinking is that Muda has any actual sway, any ability to impact the world in any meaningful way. You got any other Mutahar ones here? Mutahar, I will not buy a Switch 2. Mutahar on Twitter. assume he's referencing this. They had plenty of these in stock. Any more Muta? I'm just here for the Muta hate. I don't really care. Mutahar folding like an origami day one says a lot. Muta really exposed himself. Lamau, dude can't ever criticize Nintendo and be taken seriously ever again. Okay, what do you mean he can't criticize Nintendo and be taken seriously ever again? He cannot say words and be taken seriously again. You should not listen to Mutahar on literally anything. He will delete any video and apologize for any take ever. Right? It is not specific to Nintendo or video games. All right? It is a Mutahar in general thing. He has truly zero convictions. He is one of the least worthwhile people to listen to on the internet. Really. Every single person who watches Mutahar, who subscribes to Mutahar, should unsubscribe, should hit not interested in channel, don't recommend channel, whatever it is, when you click the 3 dots. Or, if you want to be a real trooper, click on all of his videos, instantly hit the dislike button, and then close the video after 3 seconds or so to kill the retention time. That's what you should really do. That would stick it to Mutahar. But it's not going to make a difference. Even with all these people that are upset in the comment sections and saying, how could Mutahar do that? They're just going to keep watching him. I do appreciate that I don't feel as alone for once criticizing Mutahar. Because it doesn't matter how obnoxious this guy is. I did a video on him recently where he was so comically performative talking about the Israel-Palestine stuff. And he comes onto this stream. It's like 3-4 hours into the stream. The guy on the stream is saying, I'm completely exhausted. I'm worn out. I have a sleep disorder. I can't talk about this anymore. But Mutahar still wants to come on and debate this guy. And then when Muta gets on there, he goes, oh, I take this seriously. There are men, women, and children dying. So yeah, it's not a joke. I take this very seriously. It is the corniest thing I've ever seen. And I upload a video on it, and sure, some people disagree, or some people agree with me. Most of the people on the video, based on the like to dislike ratio, disagree with me. They just suck this guy off. It doesn't matter how obnoxious what it is that he says is. On the long run, people will go back to Mutahar and agree with him and defend him. And that's all the guy ever wants. He just wants people to say, good job, Mutahar. We love you, Mutahar. Good opinion, Mutahar. You said the good thing, the correct thing. And that fuels him. That's the only reason that he does YouTube. Because he has another job, I'm pretty sure. He has a full-time job that he could live off of. But because he can upload videos and have thousands of people saying, we agree with you, Mutahar, that's why he does it. That's what fuels him. And that's why he's so quick. Every single time people push back or disagree with him, to completely fold like laundry and apologize and delete the video over and over and over again. And people don't pick up on it. They don't pick up on the pattern. They just keep watching and forgiving him. And it disgusts me.